Unity in the Ekiti APC has been elusive since the 2018 governorship election in the state, and this has been compounded by the rumored presidential ambition of certain party stalwarts from the southwest region. It appears the intrigues and political horse trading that will shape the 2023 presidential election may have already begun, albeit prematurely. Still, we'll explore these issues and others on the program today as I bid you welcome to Fireworks, your hard-talk interview program on TBC News. Today, my guest is a politician of Ekiti extraction. He is representing Ekiti Central Senatorial District and the chairman, Senate Committee on Judiciary. Welcome, Senator Opeyemi Bamidele.
It's really my pleasure to be here.
It's good to have you again.
Thank you.
And we're particularly grateful that you are live to be on the program.
Amen.
Again.
Amen.
The last time,
Yeah.
well, after the last time,
Yeah.
we all saw the report during that Ekiti rally. Perhaps you'd like to share with us your recovery story before we go into Ekiti politics proper.
Well, I'll put it this way. I guess my recovery story is the story of my testimony, which is something for another day.
You took the bullet.
Suffice to say that, yeah, not just one, you know. 2 bullets went through my body, one through my thigh, the other one right through my stomach, you know, and it only could have been God.
In spite of your trauma, you didn't chicken out of politics.
No.
You didn't turn your back on your party.
No.
You came back and you worked for your party. Still, unity has been a difficult thing to achieve, even though you reconciled with your current governor. You were in the race to become governor as well. But still, unity has been a difficult thing to achieve. Why? Why is this so?
Well, I'll put it this way. What is happening in Ekiti is not really a strange peculiarity, you know, of the state. This is what you get in any political setting, you know, where it's a conglomerate of people who are independent-minded, you know, are well-educated, who have strong opinions about things, and it's a hallmark of democracy itself. That's why they're going to tell you is about the rule of the majority, because it is recognized that not all of you will actually agree on the same thing at every point, but at least majority of you must have your way. If you look at APC itself, you know, like any other political party in the country, I mean, there's so much going on within the party, and that's why I said it is not a strange peculiarity. But does it mean that we cannot overcome all of this? No. You know, if you look at the situation in Ekiti, I think it's not different from what we had before. And if you are talking about people disagreeing, I guess it will go down in history of the state that I was one of the people who had reasons to disagree, you know, very fundamentally with the political establishment, you know, in the state. But at some point down the line, all of us still had to sit down, you know, because what became obvious at the end of the day was that it was no longer about any individual, you know, or personal ambition or aspiration. It was more about Ekiti state, you know, the survival of that state. It's a young state with a lot of, it's a very promising state with a lot of potentials, you know, and all that is important is for all of us to be able to know that, well, even when there are positions, when there are elections, only one person will get elected into every position, not more than one at a time. And whoever gets elected, you know, must just see himself as holding that position on trust, you know, for the other people, the stakeholders, the people themselves, and will be accountable to God at the end of the day. So I feel what's important is just for all of us to be able to go past this stage, you know, to recognize the need for all of us to sit down as stakeholders to really discuss the way forward in Ekiti. Both those who are disagreeing and those who are there, I don't see anyone who does not mean well for the state. It's only a question of disagreement on principle and with respect to specific issues.
But key party leaders have not gone past this stage, borrowing your words. according to reports, but I'd like you to tell us what, beyond what we read in the headlines, following congresses that produced executives of the party, Governor Opeyemi and his backers are now on one side, and then Ekiti APC Stakeholders Forum, led by Senator Anthony Adeniyi, which parades bigwigs like Senator Babafemi Ojudu, Senator Adedayo Adeyeye, Senator Bimbo Daramola, Adewale Omirin, among others, are on another side.
What
is this the APC as it is presently constituted in Ekiti State? Two factions.
Well, all the people that you have mentioned are members of APC. I also cannot pretend not to know that some of the people that you have mentioned are also in disagreement, with some other stakeholders in Ekiti. Like I said, I was there before at some point, so unless I want to pretend, and I'm not going to pretend about anything because that will not enhance, solution. Some of us really want, unity within the party, and as soon as yesterday. And that's why we have also spent a significant amount of time trying to encourage everyone to come together, to discuss. Because, like I said earlier, it's no longer about any individual. It's now about the state, and how to strengthen the party itself within the state.
You are not mentioned here, but I'd like to know where you belong.
Well, I mean, I won't
in
really
these
say
two factions, where do you belong?
I won't really say this is where I belong because I don't see factions, but I see individuals who are not, happy with certain things, going on, and they felt, and they were specific. Some of them felt that the ESCO that we had in place, did not go through the proper procedure, But part of the question you will ask was, when was this election? I mean, it was the same ESCO that we had in place, and we all contested the election, and one of us emerged as the governor of the state. But there's no doubting the fact that at some point down the line, there were disagreements. I had my own disagreements. At some point, it was like Opeyemi Bamidele and every other person, and there were even people who said I was fighting government. I knew I wasn't fighting government. We just needed to talk. But part of what I would never love to see is what happened in 2014, because we couldn't reconcile ourselves, because we couldn't really sit down, to look ourselves in the eye and really, talk and arrive at some solution and conclusion. And people took advantage of that. Opposition took advantage of that. And that was one of the reasons we lost out in Ekiti. I don't think anybody was a beneficiary of the fight in 2014. And that's why I believe that whatever needs to be done, everything that needs to be done ought to be done to ensure that we don't walk that same path, all over again, and that we don't end up
But it's more difficult to talk now that the rumored presidential ambition of certain leaders of the party in the Southwest is further making obvious those lines of division, the cracks in the wall.
What's the rumor?
Presidential ambitions of some members of the party. And I'll mention names if you want me to, but I know you don't want me to mention names.
Well, when you say this, in politics, people will always say things that will always be rumor. And I'm glad you yourself describe it as a rumor. There would be rumor.
Now I'll mention names, okay, because there are posters.
Okay.
Some party supporters have made posters of your governor in Ekiti State promoting his presidential ambition for 2023.
Well, I know.
Do you deny that?
I know our governor in Ekiti State is the chairman of Nigerian Governors Forum, and I know he's a second-term governor, in office, and I know he has his own supporters too, who are always thinking of what is supposed to be ahead of him to be next, in his political career.
So certain party supporters think on behalf of their patrons.
These things happen. These things happen. But what I know is that at the end of the day, if it is his intention to run for presidency, I'm sure at some point he will come out to say, I am running. I don't think it's something that anybody can do in secrecy. But I know how it was within the political setting. I know how many people are already pasting posters as we speak because they want to be governor in Ekiti State. I know the kind of war that's already going on social media. Now, at a time that everybody is supposed to be joining hands with the government of the day, supporting for an election that will hold over, 1.5 years from now, some people are already, fighting. And I think that's part of the distraction that makes our efforts in governance, a highway to nowhere. And we must just bring this to an end. The presidency of Nigeria is a very serious business. And as far as I'm concerned, even if the rest of the country today sit down to say, okay, our next president must come from Southwest, people are still going to sit down. If you ask me, for instance, I'm the secretary of Southwest Senators Caucus in the Senate. And I know the kind of discussions we hold. I know the kind of attitude people have adopted. First, we want unity. There are very serious issues confronting our people. Issues of insecurity, unemployment, issues of even the nation itself, our unity becoming so fragile. We even have to be sure that there will be a 2023 for people to be able to contest election, within an atmosphere of peace and tranquility. So if all of these are still issues that are daunting us on the face, I think we kind of need to be careful how we make 2023 an issue. I know that the Southwest, the Southwest geopolitical zone is one of the most organized, political communities in this country. And I know at the appropriate time, we'll sort ourselves out. And I know when the chips are down, when we get to the bridge, we will cross it.
Senator Bamidele, your kith and kin in Ekiti State are well aware of this issue. Still, they're going ahead, starting the permutations for 2023. I want to bring you back to that. The last time you were on the program,
yes,
you talked about your friendship with the governor and how it was an honor for you to be the friend of the governor and how you dropped your ambition to support him. We also know that you are a political godson of the national leader of the All Progressives Congress. Is that why you're toeing the path of caution in this and you would rather not state where you belong?
Well, Bukola, you have not told me that Dr. Opeyemi and Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, are opponents in this situation. It's good that you identify both of them. And I will not also pretend that I'm hearing this for the first time. And I know there are people who are already agitated, trying to imagine, how the two of them will have to contest against themselves. Today you hear somebody saying, you know what, Asiwaju is a good man, but age is not on his side. You should let the younger person go, Opeyemi. On the other hand, you hear some other people who say, you know what, if truly Asiwaju is contesting on moral ground, Dr. Opeyemi should not even, try to contest against him in view of what God has used Asiwaju to do in the political career of all of us. So there are people who have taken their positions and draw these conclusions on the basis of assumption. And that's why I keep saying, we can see, the more you know, the less you even want to talk. More so when you know that there will be a time, you will get to a point that everybody will have to take a position on these things. There's really no reason for us to continue to allow this to divide our ranks.
But you are not in a hurry to take a position.
Who says Dr. Opeyemi and Asiwaju are not talking? Supposing it's even a game, all this talk, all this agitation that people are trying to, who has heard from Dr. Opeyemi? Who has sat down, to hear from Asiwaju? Who says Asiwaju and his political son, Dr. Kayode and me are not talking. I think we'll get to a point where...
We want to hear from you.
From me.
Where do you stand?
Here I am. By the grace of God.
You are the one on the hot seat today.
By the grace of God, all right, I look forward to a country that will be able to offer us a platform to aspire in 2023. I look forward to an aspiration that will be driven by a very serious agenda. What is your antecedent? Where are you coming from? What have you got to offer? You know, I also look forward to a form of aspiration, you know, that will be driven also by decency. When we say we are Omoluabi in Yoruba land, the concept of Omoluabi, the concept of a virtuous man, takes a lot of things into consideration, part of which is lack of desperation. I don't see, you know, a situation. If you ask me, I don't see Asiwaju and Dr. Kayode being on the same ballot for the primaries of the party. If it happens tomorrow, tell me I'm wrong. But I don't see that happening. You know?
Senator Bamidele, that doesn't answer my question, but I'm not quite done with this issue yet. We'll get back to it after the break. You're on to Fireworks on TVC News. We're looking at Ekiti politics as it has to do with the All Progressives Congress, how united is the party in Ekiti State, and then set against the backdrop of the 2023 presidential election as permutations have already begun. Thank you for joining us. Don't go away. We'll be right back with more. Stay with us. Thank you for staying tuned to Fireworks on TVC News. If you've been following our discourse on today's edition, in the last half hour, we've been reviewing the All Progressives Congress politics in Ekiti State, particularly the disunity following the congresses in 2018 and how that party has recovered, especially in the light of developments shaping the 2023 presidential election. My guest today is a politician of Ekiti extraction, Senator Opeyemi Bamidele. He's also the chairman, Senate Committee on Judiciary. Thank you for holding on.
Thank you so much.
The All Progressives Congress, as the ruling party in power, has the Southwest now has enjoyed the vice presidential slot in this current arrangement. Now, with the seeming ambitions of certain stalwarts from the Southwest again for the presidency in 2023 emerging, is it a possibility that the party would zone the presidency to the Southwest?
Well, we're all waiting to see what would happen. If we go by the constitution of our party, the constitution of the party does not make a provision, does not make an arrangement for zoning. You know, zoning is always a political decision. It's something that can be done along the line of, you know, what is convenient, you know, for the party. And certain realities may also compel certain actions being taken by the leadership of the party. But I know it is not impossible, and a lot of people have canvassed for this. In fact, more people from the northern part of the country have even canvassed, you know, for it more than even people from the south. So it is not impossible that it could be zoned to the Southwest.
Lastly, let's talk briefly about reforms in the judiciary. You're the chairman, Senate Committee on Judiciary. What are your discoveries in oversighting that arm of government?
Well, first, I really think it's quite a privilege to chair a committee that is in charge of oversighting a whole arm of government, plus the Federal Ministry of Justice and the National Human Rights Commission. And from, you know, our own oversight responsibilities and exposure, it's become much more, you know, obvious to me that there's a need for us to do something urgently with respect to the critical judicial reforms and justice sector reforms that need to be carried out in this country. And these things vary. It depends on how you look at it. But part of what I think is most important, is to even look into the jurisdiction of some of our courts, especially the Supreme Court. If you go to the Supreme Court to file a case today, you have to wait for several years before you even get a date, except political cases. But if you file a case in the Supreme Court, you have to wait for 6 years or 7 years or 5 years. That does not help. Administration of justice or delivery of justice, and it's a sure way to inviting or getting close to anarchy. But it's not about appointing more justices, like some people have said, or expanding the number of justices. It's more about looking into the jurisdiction. A lot of the cases that go to the Supreme Court today have no business going to the Supreme Court. Land matters, chieftaincy matters, matrimonial causes matters. The decision of somebody to divorce his wife or her husband really shouldn't be a matter that will go as far as Supreme Court. And all matters of things are there that bog down, and the docket of the court is so high. Rather, we need to kind of review the jurisdiction of the court to be sure that only necessary constitutional matters end up in the Supreme Court, while others can terminate at the Court of Appeal level. And then, of course, a lot of people are also saying extend the number of years during which our judges can serve by increasing the retirement age. Again, well, it depends on the way you look at it. Some people are for, some people are against. But I think what is more important also is to look into the conditions of service of our judicial
And I'm
officers.
glad you've mentioned that. That's where we'll end it.
Yes.
I want you to quickly address this continuous clamor for increased funding. The judiciary is on the first line charge, and you
Yes.
advocated a lot, as I've read in the papers, for the improvement of the welfare of the judiciary.
Yes.
Still, the judiciary is not satisfied. What exactly is the case there? And I also want you to address the challenge of sanship for sale. I wonder if that is part of your discoveries as you oversight the judiciary.
Well, I'll put it this way. Yes, you are right, the judiciary is on first line charge. But what does this mean? This simply means that, they're entitled to statutory transfer, of whatever budgetary allocation is channeled towards the judiciary. In other words, you don't want a situation where the CJN will have to go to the president's office waiting for him to sign, or where the chief judge of a state will have to go and sit in the governor's office waiting for him or her to sign before monies are released. So that's why
it goes directly to them.
That's why they said their monies must go back to them. So first line charge. But the question is, how much is this money that goes directly to them? It's funny when people keep saying a lot of money is going to the judiciary, judges are corrupt, they are stealing the money and all that. What is actually the bane, of the kind of development and sanity that we need in the judiciary, is underfunding. 110 billion naira is the current budgetary allocation to the judiciary. I say it again. The judiciary is a whole arm of government. If you take 110 billion naira, out of a budget of some 11 point something trillion, that is less than 1% of the budget of the country. Yet it's a whole arm of government. And you are talking of people who spend a whole lifetime, getting to where they are, and they're there, and they cannot combine what they are doing with any other thing. The last time the salaries and remuneration of judges were reviewed was in 2008. 2008. This is the 13th year. So you have a judicial officer who has been on the same salary for 13 years in this country. You need to know how much they are paid.
But that's not an excuse for corruption.
It's not an excuse for corruption. But you see, that's why we say we must continue to draw a line of demarcation between fighting corruption and fighting corrupt people. Corrupt people will always be corrupt people. You go after them. But fighting corruption entails putting in place the kind of fundamentals that would encourage decency, that would compensate you know, even the decent one, people with integrity, you know, to be able to at least live within their means. But if you pay a judge of a high court a little over 500,000 naira salary in a month, she was appointed, for instance, 2008. This is 2021, 13 years ago, and she has been on that same salary for 13 years. Judicial officers, the judiciary is the only place where people don't get, annual increments. You can't say today you're on grade level 1, and next year grade level 1. What do you call it? Grade GL. Yeah, that's grade level. You are sure that every year you move a step higher. So maybe it's grade level 1, step 1. Next year, you know, you'll be on step 2. The following year, you'll be on step 3. Every 3 years, you know you get to the next grade level. But for the past 30 years, our judges have been where they were 30 years ago. These are issues that need to be addressed. And for me, addressing such issues is even more important than extending their retirement age. And then also looking into what they are retiring into. The retirement benefits should also be such that every judge can look forward to this. So these are some of the issues that I feel we really need to look into as a nation to ensure that we are able to, yes, truly, you know, ensure integrity in the judicial arm of government, you know, while also ensuring that we guarantee the independence of the judiciary. And that's where you started from, by saying they are on first line charge. That's part of the attempt, you know, by government to ensure that we guarantee the independence of the judiciary by making sure their monies go directly to them. But the question is, how much is this money and how far can it go in trying to attend, you know, to their very urgent needs that ought to be met, you know, as soon as yesterday.
I'd like to take you up on that, but that's all we have time for on this edition of the program today.
We'll be here for you, and I'm sure we'll come back to 2023 at the appropriate time.
At the appropriate time. I hope Fireworks will be the platform that will break the news of your position when you take one.
Who knows? I look forward to that.
All right. We thank you very much, Senator Opeyemi Bamidele, for your time on the program.
It's really my pleasure.
And that's our offering on the show today. Thank you for watching. Join us again same time next week when we bring you another edition. On behalf of the crew, I am Bukola Samuel Wemimo. Bye for now.